Hello there, YouTubelians, tubers. Welcome to Shady Entertaining. Today I'm going to talk about STDs. Star Trek Discovery? Or maybe it's like this. Maybe you guys make the decision. Maybe it's this. I don't know. A little conspiracy for you guys. Yeah, so I'm going to give you my impression of STD, Star Trek Discovery. I'm not going to give you my overall recap of the season in total. I'm just going to give you my general impressions of the series. If you want a full recap of the shows, with spoilers included, then go check out Doomcock. I'll put the link on the bottom, perhaps, to some of his videos. I really like him. I think he's really good. He does a really good rundown of the series, and his distaste for it. Alright guys, so what did I think? What did I think about the show? It started off wonky, I'll tell you that much. I'm going to start with the good of the show. The cinematics were pretty spot on. They were very good show. Cinematically it was wonderful. Obviously the effects were really good, especially for a series. Break out the British accent again, everyone. No. We're going to stop it. I'm going on natural. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, so it was, I liked the cinematics. I mean, although some of the camera work was a bit odd. I mean, if you noticed, there was a lot of wonky camera work. Like some people were talking, what about the Klingons? And then, hold the camera, man. Who's the camera guy? Is the cameraman narcoleptic? Does he just falling asleep and they gotta nudge him, wake him up, or wake up, you're holding the camera. Oh, sorry. We'll make it appear like this is art. It's just some dude falling asleep on the camera. Because that's what it felt like some of the time. It was just like very disorienting during some of the scenes. But cinematically, that's pretty much my only issue with it. The look of the show, well, not a fan of a lot of stuff. A fan of other stuff. The view screen, they took a more J.J. Abrams style Star Trek, the movie series look of the bridge. I felt it cold. It feels more like a medical examining room than it does an actual Starfleet ship, typical Starfleet ship. And I'll tell you why. Yeah, so like Star Trek, I'll tell you, like the bridge of the Star Trek Super Enterprises have always sort of had a warm feeling to it, with wood paneling, some carpeting. It was designed that way because, and with nice colors. It was because they realized people were going to be on a mission for multiple years, right? And that's why they wore comfy clothes. You ever notice they looked like they were running jumpsuits as opposed to uniforms, because you were going to go on a 5-year mission. And a 5-year mission, or longer, out into space, you never know when you were going to come back and see people. So they wanted to make it as comfortable as possible. That's why I feel like John Roddenberry. That's why Roddenberry, he made these comfy outfits for them to wear, because they wouldn't be encumbered all the time with these very rigid and harsh uniforms. They weren't really soldiers. They were explorers, and therefore their outfits and the way the cockpit and everything looked was more towards a relaxed atmosphere. Like, hey guys, it's almost feng shui, guys. It's all about the feng shui in the cockpits of the Enterprise. But these ships, it's so cold. But it's basically what the show is about. It's basically a microcosm of what the whole show of Discovery is. It's a very cold, very angry, very depressing tone. And it didn't feel like Star Trek. I mean, that's the one thing about the show I say that I like it as a series that is just a typical sci-fi series. If they were to call it, instead of Star Trek, and they called it War of the Angry Bald Lizard Creatures with Mangled Teeth and Gargling Language from Mars, I think people would have liked this show a little more. But because they like to attach it to something we know, and call it, Star Trek, even though it has no resemblance to anything Star Trek is, was, or ever will be, people are gonna, it's gonna turn people off. I'm sure a lot of people liked it. And it was a solid show as a sci-fi series, but it failed miserably as a Star Trek show. And I'll get more into that. The canon was all over the place. I mean, I can get into details about it. Sarek doing ridiculous things. Sarek, who is Spock's father, and now Micah's stepdad, I don't know. Again, doing fan service by pulling characters, the B team as I like to call them, because there's the A team, there's the main characters, there's the Kirk, the Spocks, the Scotty, They're all from the A team, and then you pull out the B team, which is Sarek, Harry Mudd, Tribbles. The trouble with Tribbles, you pull them out and make them the B team. Like, hey, I know that guy. He was in this episode. I don't remember him sounding or talking or acting anything like that, though. Maybe I don't know that guy. He's Jake Skywalker. You know what I mean? It's like they pull out characters and then they say, hey, remember him? And and there's some resemblance, and then he just talks. The minute he opens his mouth and they do things, it's like, no, I don't see it anymore. Sometimes you wonder, did writers even write? I mean, a lot of writers, they said, wrote for Star Trek in the past, and I don't see it. It's like, oh, we're going to take it into new directions. We're going to take things into new directions, then take it into a new direction. But if you're going to take it into an old direction, which is the past, and then try to take the past into new directions, that's why you find yourself with a little trouble. The trouble with Tribbles. You don't take things to the past and say, we're going to go to the past, and then we're going to change it up in a new direction. See, the past is an old direction, right? Been there before. And that's not what Star Trek is about, right? As we all know, Star Trek is space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
Its continuing mission to seek out strange new worlds, new civilizations,
and to boldly go where no person has gone before. That's what they changed it to, right? No man, don't you mansplain me your Star Trek ways, where no person of color and creed has gone before. Anyway, yeah, so that's what it's about. It's about looking into the future, new ways, new ideas, new things. And what they do is they go back into the old things and go back in time, and then they're trying to implement these new ideas. And that's another reason why people go to these shows going, what the hell are you doing? I mean, Sarek now can mind meld across the galaxy and pulls off some Snoke nonsense. Like, a ship can travel using spores and funguses and some weird creature, like light years and distances and through time and space. Why the hell did we need a wormhole then for Deep Space Nine? Why haven't we encountered the Borg then? There was so much stuff that you're like, why would you do it? That's why you don't go back in time. That's why you don't do a show. That's why I never approved. I sat in that boardroom and I said, I do not approve of going back in time, and doing some sort of prequel nonsense, because now you screw up the canon. I don't understand why they keep doing it. It's so much easier to just do like the Next Generation. Even if you called it the next generation. Why not? I don't care. If you're going into the future with it, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can create new alien species, new technologies like the spore, quantum jumping thing, that they did. You can invent new characters. Maybe Star Trek is a little bit darker in the future because we don't know. It's the future. Things change. So you can sort of go in a different direction. But it's like, but they're so hung up on trying to give you the whole, they need to hook you in with the fan service nonsense by giving you the B team and we'll mention the Enterprise in fleeting moments and, Tribbles and things like that. And we're going to be like, why they mention Tribbles? You know what I mean? Like, they think we're all nerds sitting there waiting to hear just name dropping of things that or visions of things that we've seen in the past. But that's not what we want. We do want new things. We like the universe. We like the atmosphere. We like what Star Trek built up. We like that about Star Trek. We don't need to see stuff that we've already seen. If we want to go back to see the old show, we could go back and see the old show. Enterprise, the series Enterprise, I think failed for that reason. The first season was kind of interesting to see, this is how they got the transporters, this is how they did all that, this is how they got this technology, blah, 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 blah. But once you get past that, you're now rehashing things and trying to stay within a certain box that you have to stay in, right? Because you're going back in time. So you cannot, it's like Back to the Future. If Marty McFly went back to the 1955 and he pulled out and he went to go buy an iPod at the store. It wouldn't make sense, right? Because there's no iPods in 1955. Unless Marty left an iPod in 1955. Great Scott! But you get what I'm trying to say. That's why it's a safer bet to just go into the future. No one's going to bother you. No one's going to say, oh, they didn't have this, they didn't have that. Oh, this technology doesn't work. It's outdated. Blah 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 blah. There was no need for that. Tell new stories, new ideas, new civilization, and to boldly go where no television show has gone before. You know what I'm saying, guys? All in all, the show had its ups and downs. In general, there was some really good episodes. The final 3 episodes were good except for the last episode. The final episode to me was just anticlimactic. Just seemed like they rushed it. You know, let's get this out of the way. How do we get in this thing? We got this whole war with the Klingons, and yet they never focused on the war. There was no strategy except for like a lot of the strategies were like ex machina things that belong to like the spore drives, and we're gonna just boop, 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 boop. You know, and if they had the technology, why couldn't they put that in other ships? Why just one ship? What does it matter? How hard would that war have been to fight if every single ship was fitted with that technology to jump around? But again, that technology is ridiculous and doesn't belong in the canon in the first place, because we can get into, like I said, everything going forward doesn't make sense. We're not even gonna get into the whole Klingons using cloaking devices, because that's again a problem with the canon, which is again a problem with why I don't like going back in time. Yeah, so the tone was off. The characters were dull. I'm sorry, they were dull. There was some I liked Lorca. His darkness and the fact that he was part from the Mirrorverse. I liked his character. Ash, the whole Ash arc. Guys, there's spoilers coming, so if you want to go watch it, then there's some spoilers here. Yeah, Ash being a Klingon. Ash's story arc I kind of liked. It was interesting. I didn't like his relationship with Micah. I didn't believe it. I don't know why. The reason why I didn't believe it was because of Micah herself. She didn't seem like a very loving, caring person, and I never felt that could kind of come out of her. And so when she was feeling these emotions, I never felt they were real or genuine from her. From him, I sensed it. I actually thought his love for her, I felt. But hers for his felt like, sure, I'll do this now, maybe. I don't know. Her character in general was always jumping around. I never liked her character. You know, she would be intellectual in one minute, then she'd be emotional in another minute. And I get that she's supposed to be conflicted, but my problem with her character is even from the beginning, someone that was that conflicted and unsure of herself would never have made it to a high rank in Starfleet, you know, because you have to have a certain level of accomplishment to be at that high rank. And if you're still acting like you're an preteen teenager who's all like I don't know what I want to be. I mean, she's a grown-ass woman at this point. Why is she still having all these issues with herself and her personality? It just seemed like for her story arc, it didn't fit with her stature as a Starfleet officer. She would have never made it to that rank. Tilly's another one who was like, oh my god. Look, she was such an airhead, ditzy person, so unsure of herself. What am I gonna do? Oh, should I touch it? I don't know. You know, that whole I didn't like her. I didn't really like her. It was cringy every time I saw her on screen. I was like, how did you even make it to Starfleet? I wouldn't even let you flip my burgers at Burger King. You'd never pass the first job interview. I don't think she'd be sitting there going, I don't know, maybe I should Starfleet. Maybe I should stay in Idaho and peel potatoes. I don't know. I'm sorry, but here in Starfleet, we take ourselves very seriously, and we don't like people who are very wishy-washy. People's lives are in your hands, and we can't afford that. Okay, I understand. You're sorry, I can't. You can go back home now. Right? That's who she reminded me of. Lieutenant Stamets was my favorite character. Felt like a real person to me. Which is my biggest issue with most of the old Star Treks, other than the original, but the TNG, which I love. My biggest issue was the characters felt rigid, not really personable, not really relatable in most ways. I found him to be the most relatable character because of the fact that he was an ass at times, but he was genuine at times. Like the time when he was a prick, he wasn't a prick because he felt like he was just prickish for no reason. He was reasoning for why he was. He was in love with the Doctor, and that love felt real. It felt more real than Micah's relationship with Ash. So I really liked his character, but my problem with his character is they kind of neutered him. They neutered him towards the end. He's sort of like, there's a point where he has to be used they can't use the alien creature to do the jump, so they have to use him. After there's a certain point where they were kind of going somewhere with it, with the Mirrorverse, and him having multiple personalities, and then they just dropped it. They just sort of vanished, and they didn't go anywhere with that. I don't know. A lot of things in this show just seemed like they were going somewhere and then wah wah wah, just disappeared for no reason. So, like, yeah, a lot of the writing in the show felt like they had a direction the show was going to go to, and then they heard fans talk about some things, and then they didn't know what they wanted to do, and then they just dropped ideas, added ideas, changed people, I don't know, and then towards the end you had this finale that was very neutered. It just seemed like, the finale seemed rushed. It was very anticlimactic. It was, and the Klingons never felt like a threat. You never made me believe like the Klingons were a threat, except for the first episode, maybe, first couple of episodes. But afterwards, they never felt threatening, and they just kept telling me, "Oh, the Klingons are now here, and the Klingons are doing this," but we never felt the danger. When they went to the Mirrorverse and then came back, everyone's all of a sudden like, "Oh my God, where were you guys? We were taking a beating," and so we never felt that that impending doom because we never got to see it. We were busy doing some other nonsense, and then when we come back to the real arc of the story, you know, everything's in disarray. So the whole, again, that goes back to the whole baffling reason as to why, if they were so reliant on one stupid ship, why couldn't they have just put that technology in other ships? It just didn't make sense to me. You know, just because, like, for reasons. And it didn't feel like something that Starfleet would do. A lot of nitpicky stuff here and there. The show in general just didn't feel like Star Trek. Let's just be honest. It didn't feel like Star Trek. The intro felt like some Netflix episode, some Netflix series. It didn't feel like Star didn't have an epic beginning. Again, it comes back from, let's not give us a new awesome score. Let's give us some weird, you know, convoluted retro score that doesn't feel like something we remember, and it doesn't feel like anything new. So it's in the middle of purgatory of garbage. Purgatory of garbage. I love that word. I'm gonna coin that word. You cannot use that word. My word. Purgatory of garbage. Yeah. So in general, am I looking forward to season 2? Not really. Not really. I'm not invested in any of these characters, to be honest with you. I prefer the Orville. I really do. And even though the Orville wasn't perfect, the Orville also felt sort of like clone of TNG, but like missing the mark on actually being Star Trek and being, you know, a parody. I mean, it still had me feel more like Star Trek than this does. So I give Orville the pass because Orville, to me, I looked at that and it had more. This is another thing. The Orville had heart. Like, the characters had personality and you felt them. And even though they were kind of cartoonish at times, you still felt for them more. The characters are so rigid and cold. There's no heart to this show either. No heart at all. There's that forced love interest thing, but there was no heart there. There's like the Klingons. Hard to listen to. They were hard to watch. I mean, what the hell was the design of them? Did they forget that in every other rendition of Klingons had hair? That's not a minor detail change, okay? I don't mind a little changes to the eyebrows or a little changes to the ears and some teeth, but you friggin', it's like you pick and choose what you want to change and what you don't. You leave the language, right? I mean, hell, if you're going to change the Klingons, why not make them speak German? Won't say the Klingon Empire will take some the world, yes we are, because we are the Klingons. They pick to choose to keep the language, but they change everything else. They were non-recognizable to me as Klingons. At least give them hair. There was absolutely no rendition of Klingons in any of them. In any of the series where they didn't have hair, to make them all bald? Come on, man, like, that was a huge change. It's like taking Vulcans and saying, they don't need to have ears. Like, why didn't they do that with other characters? I'm a bit annoyed by that. The hair was a big deal for me, because it didn't matter what they looked like in the past. You know, they changed the look a little bit here and there, but they always had hair. They always had long hair, you know, bushy brows, you know, the Fu Manchu thing. They always had some form of, you know, of facial hair. Saying they're all bald now, that's not a Klingon to me, you know? And that's what I don't understand. We're gonna tell you it's Klingons, but you're not gonna show you Klingons. It's like they're trying to purposely piss us off. Who knows what their agenda really is, right? Live long and prosper. Live long? I don't know, I can't do this. Oh, they even mentioned Beta Z. It's like, oh, you remember Beta Z, guys? What? They said Beta Z, Glavin. You know what I mean? It's like they're name dropping here and there. At the end, they give you this little moment with, we're receiving a transmission. From where? I wonder where this transmission is coming from. Who is it? I don't know. Who's it? It's like this whole suspense thing. They were told, oh my God, what's this? What's this transmission from? And then it's like, and then they slowly put the numbers, NC, whatever. And here we go, guys. Captain Pike. Oh, Pike. Yeah. Oh yeah, he was a thing. I remember. Here comes the B team, the head of the B team. And yes, Pike was the original captain of the Enterprise. And he was the first episodes of Star Trek. For most of us who are hardcore old school Star Trek fans would be like, oh my God, Glavin, that was Pike, Glavin, you got the Enterprise, Glavin. But you know who else was on that Enterprise, guys? Do you remember who was on that Enterprise? Spock. It would have been nice to have Spock speaking with Micah, who are brother and sister, which, don't get me started on that! No, we're gonna give you the B team, guys. We know what you guys would really like with Spock, but we're not gonna give you that. What are you take us for? People who care? You know, so they give us the B team. Pike! Hey guys, Pike is here. This is Pike! You get what I mean? Like, they don't give you anything, but they pretend to give you something. They think they're being clever, they think they're giving you it, but they're not. They're just playing these little games to reel you in with this. They think they're reeling you in, but they're not. So basically, sum it all up. What did I think of the Discovery? Basically, it's like this. Think of a Star Trek series. Take out imagination, reason, and accountability. And guys, what if this is as good as it gets? No, going forward, I have no interest. I wouldn't renew it. Not gonna do it. Yeah, so that concludes my first part. The second part of this whole thing, I want to talk about Star Trek in general. And what Star Trek is supposed to represent. And why I do think that there is a serious issue with why Star Trek has been changed. What does this mean, guys? I don't know, you go figure this one out. I believe that there's messages that are sent. And for a long time, we've been wanting Star Trek, right? The way we remember it. Now, Star Trek is a series that was to explore, for me, not just different technologies. It was the pinnacle of what human beings can achieve in this world, right? It was what human beings could be if we took the crap. We just took the crap right out of human nature and said, let's say we've gone past this and evolved past this, and let's say that this is how human beings could be, what we could achieve, the pinnacle of humanity could achieve, intellectually, spiritually, in the future, and showed for a moment a glimpse of the best of what humanity can offer, what we could achieve. You know, a world without war, a world without money, a world where all we care about is exploring or just bettering ourselves as human beings. Because that's what it's about. That's what Star Trek was about. It wasn't this despondent, despairing. It's not Gene Roddenberry's vision of it. It was never supposed to be this war-torn times. No, we've gotten past that. It was supposed to take place after all this nonsense. That nonsense was there. You could keep that stuff. Put that in a different show. This was what after war. This was after we'd gone through the hard times and we came above it and we rose above it. That was what this is about. It's always about looking to the future. Again, to boldly go where no man, person, thing has gone before. Right? That's what it's about. It's not about to boldly go where we've previously been and don't really want to see before. That's why when you look at this show, or any of these shows, it'll never ring true. It'll never ring true with what Star Trek is because you don't understand the heart and soul of what Star Trek is. Why? Why are they going back? Why are they trying to pull Star Trek into this nihilistic world that it was anti-nihilistic. Anti-nihilistic? I don't know if that's even a thing, but it is today. It was basically a society that evolved from that to become great, to have ideals. And if everyone will say, oh, this is propaganda of socialism, it doesn't matter what it is, propaganda of socialism, what it is. All that matters is that in the end, human beings survived. Human beings survived and prospering together. Yes, some of it was boring. The TNG had its moments of people who were very rigid, but that was on the ship. That was in a very small microcosmic element of being on a vessel in which everyone had to be scientists, technicians, military men or whatever, right? That's why it was like that. But in the real world, which we never really got to explore or see, which is what I would have liked to have seen, maybe Star Trek where you could actually see how human beings really react in that world, would have been a nice taste to see how actual human beings lived, which we still haven't really seen, right? We haven't really seen, the closest we came was Deep Space Nine, and even that was sort of weird because it was on a space station and still had that military thing. We could explore various different directions of what the future holds for humanity in different ways. And yeah, you could name drop, hey, Captain Picard is calling you on the phone, and I'm saying it's about us as humanity getting past our petty differences. It's about us as humanity stop bickering, stop fighting, using ingenuity, intelligence, creativity to further the species to progress. But it's like they don't like those kind of messages, right? They find like they like the messages of zombie apocalypse and civil wars and Batman v Supermans and Last Jedi, where everybody loses and fails. I don't know, I'm getting too conspiratorial, man. Gotta bring it back. Reel it in, Shaney. Reel it in. But you get what I'm trying to say, and this is why for me it bothers me. It always bothered me, and for a long time there was this missing gap in my world, which Star Trek was. Star Trek innovated people. It made people. The first space shuttle, I think, wasn't it called the Enterprise? Cell phones. Captain's log, right? It was inspiring scientists to create. People have always wanted the holodeck. Sorry, the holodeck, and those are inspirational things for us to aspire to be. These shows going back in time, what does it inspire? What is it telling us? It's telling us nothing. It's telling us what we already know. Yeah, there was turmoil and political stuff in Star Wars before. The Russians being the Klingons, the Kardashians being the Kardashians being the Kardashians. Kicking in with the Kardashians. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was always some political stuff to it, but it was always in a context of how we should approach these things in a more sophisticated, higher evolved way of doing it, right? There was one episode where I think the Klingons went to this country, this planet where they had no weapons and they didn't have no idea of war, and the Klingons gave, this is the old series, one of my favorite episodes, and they gave this culture, they gave them guns and weapons, right, to fight, and to promise to join the Klingon Empire and be protected by the Klingon Empire, as the Klingon Empire wanted them to destroy, conquer the country, the planet. And this planet had never known war before. So then you have this other race in that country, in that planet, being almost decimated by the Klingons. And then you had Picard, Kirk, who's like, we've got our prime directive. We can't interfere with the politics of this world. They've never known fighting a war until the Klingons came and gave them weapons. Now, what are we supposed to do? We can't fight the war for them. But we can't stand idly by and watch genocide occur. So what do we do? Right? These were like really intellectual discussions of like how to interfere without interfering. And Spock, I think, disagreed with him. He was like, "This is illogical, Captain. We cannot do this, so you cannot interfere." And he's like, "Well, the Klingons already interfered. Damage is done. We need to do something." Right? And so what he did was he had to give weapons to the other side and teach them to fight. Basically, it was an immoral decision that he had no choice but to make. These are mature adult arguments. These are real cerebral conflicts that this is what you would. How would you deal with that situation, right? You can't leave genocide. You can't just leave them to go. You can't fight the war for them. So you have to figure it out. You have to teach them. It's like, so they ended up, you gotta teach you can't give them the fish. You have to teach them to fish. And so they gave them weapons, taught them how to fight for themselves, and said, now you're gonna fight. It's gonna be a war-torn country, a war-torn planet, and I'm ashamed, but there was no other choice. Right? Such a great episode. I love that episode. I forgot what it's called. I don't know all the names of these episodes. It's irrelevant. And the Orville actually did a few episodes similar to this where it made you think, like, how would you handle this situation? You're in kind of this, you have these decisions to make, and your moral decisions that you have to choose, and almost like where no matter what you choose, it's going to be a bad choice. So you have to make the lesser of two evil choices. And it was very mature in that way, which is why even the old Star Trek still is really amazing show to watch. Even though there's, the effects are bad and they go beep, 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 beep. It was very, all the girls are dressed in miniskirts in the 60s. But you know what I'm saying? They were mature adult themes. Just on a side note, guys. For all these episodes of Star Trek and these generations of Star Trek, there's still one question maybe you guys can help me with before I go. I still have no idea how they go to the washroom in the Star Trek universe. There's not one mention of any time, anywhere, in any of the Star Treks that I can remember. Maybe I'm wrong, guys. Tell me in the comments if there was ever a mention of how they do their business in the Star Trek universe. And I always assume, like, maybe they transport the the stool out of into space or something? It's kind of a risky proposition. Not once have I heard Picard say,
Number 1, you've got the helm, I'm going for the number 2.
Bonk, you forgot the flush, the space toilet, you disgusting bulk. Wasting water in the space is illogical. We've never seen that ever, so that's a question I'm asking to you fans. I still would like to know, it's been, I don't know how many years since the 60s, many movies, series and shows, and I still don't know. I've never seen one toilet, not one, nothing, not once. I think in the future we've evolved beyond the need for refuse. Anyway, guys, yeah, so that's my little Star Trek rant for you. I hope that going forward that they start, I know it's not going to happen because I don't have any faith, none. I have no faith in Hollywood and in any of in their motives. I don't believe, I don't trust, I really don't. I still think there's other agendas at play in these shows. Don't take my word for it. Maybe I'm just cuckoo crazy nutty, I don't know. I don't really think they want to bring back Star Trek the way we know it and love it. I think they're just trying to tell us what to love and what we should think and how we should feel. But tell me what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with the ideals of Star Trek and why these things just don't they don't jive with it at all? Let me know if you've ever seen a space toilet in any of the Star Trek universes. I don't even want to know what the Borgs do. We assimilate. I don't want to know what that is. Do you have faith in this series going forward? Do you think that they even want to recapture what Star Trek is? Do you like the Orville better? Let me know about that. Yeah, and that's it. So thank you for watching, everybody. Live long and prosper. Scotty, beam me in. I'm train captain, but I can't get the power converters to work.